I'll push the record button simply because if I don't, I'll forget to do it and we'll be halfway through and it it won't be recording. So just so you know, it's being recorded. Um, how are things going? You enjoying this fake spring that we're getting?
Um, I hope it is spring. I hope it's because we got a lot committed with the garden and stuff. We got stuff and we're kind of covering up things at night to, for the freeze and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I'm
Yeah.
getting tired of
We
that.
got a message from somebody, and I can't remember. I feel like it was somebody in the know that March 23rd through the 27th was supposed to be like a new winter. We were supposed to get some really cold weather, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
And we, some of the stuff that's very sensitive hasn't popped up yet, so we're hoping it holds off.
Right. I would love to develop a green thumb. My grandfather, when I asked him how he learned how to garden, he looked at me with this baffled face and he said, when I was a kid, if we didn't grow our food, we didn't eat.
Yeah.
And so you learn how to take good care of your food when that's all you get. And so I don't have that pressure to take super good care of what I put in the ground yet.
I don't know. It's just kind of a hobby. It's pretty simple. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's kind of therapy. I have to get out there in the morning and hoe or do something. Just spend 15 minutes or 20 or half an hour. It makes a big difference. Just do it every day.
Yeah.
But the hardest part is harvesting, the canning, and because then you're on a time strain. You got to pick it, and then you got to do something with it instead of
Right.
let it go rot. Anyway,
Right.
that's kind of the stressful time. But
Yeah, I know you guys generously shared last year, and I'm sure it was because you had a bumper crop of certain things and you just couldn't do
oh,
something with it. Yeah.
the joke is, when we go to church, the preacher, he'll lock his car because otherwise you put all kinds of zucchini in it. And I asked Carla, why are we planting so many, why are we planting 8 of these when 4 would feed us, like zucchini
Right.
plants or something? And she
Right.
said, well, in case one, in case they die or something, but no, and we end up just having so much, and
Yeah,
only 2 people can do so much with it. But
it's true. Yeah. I am looking to see if anybody sent me a lost meeting
uh-huh.
or lost message. Well,
But,
I sent to everybody in the practice. We'll see if anybody shows up.
uh-huh.
Anybody, I mean, I know you and Carla are here. If anybody else wants to come on, but I think this is just as good because we can have a conversation and you can ask questions in real time. And
Uh-huh.
that way, when there's a whole bunch of people and people don't ask questions or I have to look for a raised hand or whatever. So what I'm going to do, Evan, is go ahead and get started with my screen sharing so that I can kind of go through
Okay. Pam,
the PowerPoint. All right. And then I will record it. Hey, Pam, I think you don't have a screen. So you're on your phone, if I remember, or something, or a computer without a camera. You can type it in the chat if you want. And there's Lori. Yay. I'll maybe give him another minute then. Hi, Lori. You're welcome to unmute yourself while we're going. And there's Kanita. Looky there. So you're not all by yourself, Evan. It's all right.
hold the fort down.
Yeah, Evan and I were just starting to have a conversation that I was going to start the PowerPoint presentation and present to him. He was going to be my one and only, but maybe we'll give it a couple more minutes. We were just talking about gardening and about growing healthy food and things like that. Now, my grandfather told me that the only way to learn that he learned how to grow the garden was that if he didn't grow it, he didn't eat. But I don't have that pressure, so I haven't developed my green thumb yet. So yeah, if you start developing it and you get good habits, I think like you and Carla have, Evan, it's a little easier.
and and uh, and I'll bore Lori with this and all these other people. But anyway, we collect the water off some buildings, and it goes down. We're actually watering our garden with rainwater, and
Mhm.
it's just fun. It's just living on within your own means is kind of it's a challenge, but yeah, it's very very simple. anyway, we just kind of, it's intriguing to me, kind of a hobby thing, but we reap the benefits of it.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that it speaks of somewhat of a simpler life, that we think we have convenience by being able to go to the grocery store and spend all of the money and get all of the foods and the treats and the convenience. And that's something I'll go into during the PowerPoint a little bit. I only have 10 slides, so I'm not, I'm not planning on like inundating you guys with a ton of information. It's mostly just to keep me on task because I can talk and talk and talk. So, but if we didn't have to work so hard to pay the big money for the food that we have to go buy at the grocery store and the gas to get in the car to go to it, we might have more time to do the simpler things that are healthier for us, like gardening and walking and eating healthy food.
Yeah.
We've just been trained that it has to be the other. So, all right, I see Kelly's on as well. Let's see who else has joined us. All right, so what I am going to do, you are all welcome to be here. And unless we have somebody like having a conversation in the background or turning on the TV or somebody's dog is going bonkers, go ahead and stay unmuted and pop in with questions. I like that interaction more so than just me talking to the screen. So we're good there. What I am going to do and try to do right is share my screen. So I'm going to close off our attendees. You guys can keep coming in. I made it automatic. Going to go in here and share my screen. And then if you guys can give me a minute here, I'm working off 2 screens. And I've got the sun going down right in my face. There's nothing I can do. Everywhere I move, the sun gravitates across my face. So let me find my presentation so that I can share it with you here.
Well, it says you started your screen sharing.
Yes. So it's there. You can see everything currently. And I think I popped it up here on the big screen behind you guys. Yeah.
I don't see it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So you see, we are what we eat. Is that what you guys are seeing now?
Yes.
All right. So I am a procrastinator extraordinaire. I got this done at 6:10 today. And so if there's any typos or anything, forgive me, but I work best under pressure. I will say that not every picture is going to depict some of the things that I suggest, as in like no cheese, no eggs for some people, and then no grains. But in general, this could be a very healthy bowl for many people. So this is the 3rd in our longevity series, how to age healthier and live longer. This talk today is about what we eat. It's about the food we put into our bodies. So I had initially intended to go into kind of using the highlights from the blue zones, but they have a lot of proprietary information and a lot of restrictions, and literally they want you to sign waivers if you're going to talk about their book or their program. So what I'm going to do is talk about blue zones in the world, which are the places where people have lived longer in general. They have higher percentages of centenarians, or people who live into their 100s. And the author of the book, Blue Zones, I just completely drew a blank on his name at the moment. He and some scientists went around to these different areas in the world, and there's 5 or 6 of them, depending on the classifications and if they're still as healthy as they were when he did his initial search. It's in places like Costa Rica, Italy, Loma Linda, California, Okinawa, and there's a couple of others. And what they have done is put together the habits and the lifestyle choices of the people who live the longest. And so this week or this month, we're going to talk about what we eat as being one of the very most important things in helping us live longer. So if we think about it, our food is the fuel for our body. You can read here, what we eat impacts our body and our mind. The source of our food, the preparation of our food, and the environment in which we eat have profound impacts on how our body assimilates the nutrients and make them, those little vitamins, proteins, amino acids, all of that, turn them into us. And when I talk about that, this is one of those things that when I was in training in my residency program, and one of my professors gave a lecture to us on mindful eating. And it was extremely profound for me because, growing up as a child, we would say our prayers before dinner, and it was a rather perfunctory, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this food, bless the cook, bless this food, nourish it to our bodies, amen. And everybody would shout out. The intent was good, the thought was good, but the delivery lacked purpose. And so when she started teaching us about mindful eating, what she did is she walked us back several steps, and it made most of us really slow down. So what she advised is when we think about our food, and I would encourage you to practice this every now and then, is to, while you're sitting in front of your plate, offer gratitude for the cook that prepared the food. Offer gratitude for the hands that cleaned the kitchen that the food was cooked in. Offer gratitude for the grocery store clerk who checked out the food at the grocery store, for the stocker who placed it on the shelf, for the truck driver who unloaded and loaded that onto the truck and delivered it to the store in your hometown, for the distribution center and the people there that packaged your food to put on the truck, to the farmer that grew the food, who harvested the food, that packaged the food to put in the distribution center to send to your table. And before that, going even further past that farmer, she encouraged us to think of the plant or the animal and to be mindful of the gift that they were giving us. Then we think of that plant and the conditions it grew in. Did it grow in a greenhouse? Did it grow out on the fields in the elements, getting wind, rain, frost, hail, and it survived beyond all of that hardship to provide a fruit or vegetable for you? Was the animal humanely butchered, or did it live a life of hardship in a feedlot with a not so kind end? And this really took me to a place of a loss of appetite, to be honest, because I thought, oh my goodness, I've never considered that much where my food comes from. And I've never offered that much gratitude to so many different things, creatures, beings, and people for my singular meal. So you can extrapolate this back to those packaged foods, those frankenfoods that are combinations of artificial ingredients, artificial colors, artificial preservatives, artificial flavors, lots of sugar, and genetically modified ingredients. And then we need to go back and who do we thank for that? It changes your mind about what you're eating. And so this is the very beginning of we are what we eat. Literally, we are every component of what challenges our food products have to face before they provide us nutrients. So here we are. I'm going to take it a little step further. And this is a little bit about digestion, which is going a little further than I intended to, but we have time. When we take our food in, we should also be very grateful for our microbiome, the little bugs that are inside our digestive tract who break down our food. So any of you who've been in my quantum metabolic reset program in the past, or have listened in or what have you, or we've talked about digestion starts with the eyes. When we see the food, it makes us excited to eat. So our mouth starts to water. You can probably close your eyes and picture your favorite food and your mouth will start to water. The next thing we eat with is our nose. Is the aroma appealing? Does it make you want to eat the food? Or is it a stench that you're just thinking, I got to get it over with. I got to get it in my belly and be done. The next step is chewing. Our stomach doesn't have teeth. So if you do not mechanically break down your food in your mouth to about the level of mashed potatoes or pudding, your poor stomach is already lost. That's where the majority of us develop poor acid content in our stomach, indigestion, bloating, and reflux, because our stomach is trying to chew your food. So it has to make more acid and do more churning in order to break down our food particles. So if you really are conscientious about it and chew your food 10 to 20 times into that very much a puree consistency, then swallow it, you're going to put your digestion ahead. So once it goes through your digestive tract into your or your stomach into your small intestine, that's where it's mixed with different enzymes to help your body further extract out protein, fat, and carbohydrates. It will also start to help break down fiber. It's in our large intestine where the bacteria are supposed to be living. That broken down food product is then further digested by the microbiome, the bacteria in our gut. When we have the healthy kind, the ones that have been symbiotically placed with us from the beginning of time, that is how we most optimally absorb food. Those bacteria ingest the broken down food, digest it, and excrete it. And it's what they excrete that our body then absorbs through the cells in the walls of our intestines. Think about that. Is that a surprise for anybody?
No,
I know. I flipped you there. I want to see your faces a little bit.
Okay. One thing that caught me a long time ago was I guess the intestines. It's one thing to get it in the stomach and think that's all good and everything, but it's the intestines that have to live with what you put in your stomach and do their job, and that really doesn't coincide with a lot of bad stuff I put in my stomach. It doesn't help what I put in my stomach, but anyway, that caught my attention years ago.
Yeah.
What does they say, that your intestines are the second brain or whatever? So anyway, they do. If they're not happy, nobody's happy.
That's correct. That's a really adequate or accurate statement. And that leads us to this next slide. When you said that, I just went ahead and advanced. So what's your eating mood today? Oftentimes we eat because we're in a particular mood, or our mood makes us choose certain types of food. But did you know that what you eat can also alter your mood to help put you in a better state of mind? Ingredients matter. When you eat artificial ingredients or highly processed foods, it turns your body into a science experiment. Natural foods are made to readily provide you with nutrition, energy, and building blocks for your neurotransmitters, which are what give us our mood. Dopamine, serotonin, GABA, glycine, all of those come from our food. You talk about the turkey coma on Thanksgiving Day when you get too much tryptophan. That is a sedating. It made us to have more of those sedative neurotransmitters. So that is something I want you to think about. When you are quote unquote hangry, so hungry, you're angry, the first thing we want to do is grab the easiest thing to pop in our mouth and shove it in. That tends to be the worst thing we can do because it's usually something very high in carbohydrate, which will spike our blood sugar, which then makes our body release a lot of insulin. When we get a lot of insulin, what happens? It tanks your blood sugar, and then we get anxious and jittery, and our body gets the message, oh, we have too much insulin, we need to give it more sugar. And then that cycle starts over. So instead of allowing yourself to get hangry, and when we talk about intermittent fasting, we have some tips and techniques for that. The funny thing is, when you do intermittent fasting, suddenly hunger doesn't rule your world anymore. It's quite a remarkable experience. It might take a while for some, but for most people, it's a good experience. Have something that is readily available. If you know that you're going to have an hour before you can have dinner, have a piece of meat, or have a handful of nuts, or have a little serving of nut butter with a half of an apple, and that will get you through better than the potato chips, the cookies, ice cream, or the mocha latte chino thing that's full of caffeine, sugar, and all the things that we don't need at that time of night. So looking at that, we want delicious, healthy food. Ideally, we would choose organic, wild, or grown in open air whole foods. You should be able to pronounce every ingredient on the label, and it is getting harder and harder and harder to find food that doesn't have something in it that shouldn't be there. When you go and buy Rice Krispies, it should only say rice. It shouldn't say maltodextrin. It shouldn't say dextrose. It shouldn't say sugar. It shouldn't say anything but rice, but we can't find that anymore. When you go to buy almonds that have light salt, you should not have maltodextrin on your almonds with light salt. And they'll say it's a binder. It's to help the salt stick to the nut. If the salt doesn't stick to the nut, it's helping us out. So again, read your labels. It's very important. If sugar is in the top 5 ingredients, it shouldn't be in your mouth. That being said, one of my trainers, he said, if it has more than 5 ingredients in it, you probably don't need it. Unless every single one of those ingredients is a whole healthy food. So this will impact your mood in so many ways by getting rid of artificial ingredients. I apparently went backwards somehow. There we go. So something that I have tried to live by, and I have times in my life where I do better than others. People who know me, they know that my weight fluctuates from time to time. They know that my health fluctuates from time to time as well. A lot of that has to do with stress. And this is one of these things where it's the whole doctor heal thyself message today. It is also the whole preaching to the choir message today, as well as looking in the mirror and teaching myself the things that I already know, but reminding myself that I'm worth it. So quality matters. When we realize that food is medicine, we realize that we can be our own best healer. You don't necessarily have to go knocking on somebody else's door for help. I don't want you all to leave me, but I would much rather have people who are knowledgeable and understand what they're doing and have questions and want to have somebody who's maybe a little more expert in it, help them with their roadmap. I don't have to write the whole map for you, especially if you have some idea of the cartography of your body. I can help you make a better choice. We can take the path of least resistance. We can also learn that sometimes doing hard things will get us over the mountains faster. But Hippocrates, you've heard of the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. He's also the father of medicine. And one of his famous statements in my functional medicine world is let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. I'm trying to find my mouse clicks over here. So how can food help me live longer? That's what we're talking about tonight, longevity. As I was talking about earlier, your food absorbs energy as it grows. And it's a profound thought when we practice that mindfulness around food. I want you to think of something. So we've all had strawberries from the grocery store. And if anybody does any reading or research on the Clean 15 or the Dirty Dozen foods from the Environmental Working Group, or you've heard other people talk about, what foods should we have to have organic or what foods can we eat conventionally grown because they're not toxic to us. Well, strawberries is one of those things that pretty much, if it's grown conventionally, you don't want it. We learned that the way they help those strawberries grow is they put napalm in the soil. They inject the soil to kill off bugs and other things that prevent the strawberries from growing, and then they let them grow big. And oftentimes you might notice that they don't have a very great flavor. Their color might be a little off. They have a whole bunch of odd stuff when you wash them. But when you get organic strawberries, they might be odd shaped. They might be multiple different sizes. Oftentimes they're much brighter red because that anthocyanin and the other polyphenols that turn our fruits and vegetables the bright, brilliant colors they are, those are protective to them. They're signs of succeeding in surviving against adversity rather than not. So yeah, they might have some more sand and dirt on them. Maybe it even has some bugs on it. And that's why we wash our food. You spray it down with some apple cider vinegar and then soak it. You're pretty good to go. It'll discourage the little critters that might still be on it from staying, and they'll float to the top. When I talk about the energy, I want you to consider this. So let's imagine that organic strawberry or those wild grown blueberries. So they're out in nature. They have to survive a hard winter. They have to tolerate and survive a windy March that just can't decide if it wants to give you hail or ice or snow or 90-degree days. It just, and it's going to survive because it is going, that's what it's programmed to do. And when you have the fruit that survives off of that flower that has struggled and survived the adversity, energetically, that fruit is more powerful for you. Because if we're all made of energy and we're all made of frequency, the frequency in that fruit that survived the adversity, it is genetically programmed to be stronger. So by you eating that particular fruit over the one that had the easy life, growing in the hot house without having to have any worry about bugs or wind or temperature changes, it's kind of like, let me eat a little cardboard. It's kind of inert. It doesn't give you as much. Well, it might be the same calories, it might be the same fat, it might be the same amount of sugar because that's what they calculated in the 1950s. We don't really know that anymore. It's not energetically as potent for you. So again, invest more in your meat. Go to a farm that humanely butchers and raises their livestock. Go to Making a Difference or Mad Farms. They pasture raise their animals. They raise them with love because they know that that love is going to be transferred to the clients who and then eat the meat of that animal. They also butcher caringly. They offer gratitude. We hear about soldiers that are not soldiers, but hunters who have a lot of ethic around the kill. They go in and they thank the animal that they have taken that life from. And they thank it and they use it and they don't waste it. They don't just take it for antlers or they don't just take it for, the duck breast. They use the animal in a respectful way versus some of our conventional farming and our conventional ranching. You know where I work, driving down the road and pulling up at the stoplight next to the cattle truck. I eat meat, I eat beef. And then I'm like, oh, that's where it came from. And so I get a little bit sad about it sometimes. And so going in for gratitude, when I see the cows that are alive and their little brown eyes are looking at me through the holes in the trailer, I actually offer gratitude then for their sacrifice. I thank them energetically for what they're going to feed us. So you do what you feel resonates with you, but that's something that I think if we really start to apply that to our diet, it's going to help us a lot. So on nutrition, again, a lot of the data that we have is ancient at this point, 75 years old, maybe from, back when we actually had good nutrients in our soil. We hadn't overfarmed everywhere. We don't know really what our nutrients are. And there's nutrition studies being done frequently that shows us that it's just not the same as it used to be. Another thing is that not all calories are created equally. My grandmother raised me. So part of my eating disorder, so here's a little personal aside, is I have been weighed and measured since I was a small child. When I would visit my grandmother, she'd put me up against the wall and get your height, and that's really cute. But then she'd put me on the scale and give me a lecture about being heavy or overweight. And then I would be put on a calorie restricted diet. On that calorie restricted diet, she taught us that if we only had 1,200 calories, we'd be guaranteed to lose some weight. But she really didn't care what it was made out of. So I had to have 4 cups of milk every day. I had to eat all bran in the morning. I'll let you extrapolate the why on that. But the rest of the day, we could eat half of a McDonald's hamburger. We could eat a 100-calorie McDonald's ice cream cone, and we could split a zebra cake. But we were within our caloric limits. So it was very confusing to be given those not so great foods, but being told I needed to be different. So that is something that I am perpetually working on healing throughout my adult life. But as we learn, if you're going to take in 100 calories of sugar, that's not going to give you anything but calories. If you're on a marathon and you're running and you need ready energy, those starches and carbs, you need those. But in general, we don't need 100 calories of straight sugar. If you eat 100 calories of strawberries, you're going to have a full tummy. If you eat 100 calories of blueberries, you're going to have a very healthy snack. If you eat 100 calories of nuts or lean protein, you're going to come away with a little bit of a full tummy. That sugar will not serve you. If it's straight up sugar, what you're going to get is an insulin release who's going to push all of that sugar into your cells, or not if your body is insulin resistant. And then you're going to have hunger very quickly. I don't know if any of you have heard of the idea of, if you go to, again, this is fast food. If you go and get the combo meal, you get your Whopper and your French fries and your giant Diet Coke that they serve you, or your regular Coke, just throw the regular Coke on it for the extra 300 calories. You eat it all and you're still hungry enough to say, hey, can I get some of those cookies? Now, if you go and you get a Whopper, low carb style, no bun, served on a bed of lettuce, no French fries, and drink water, you're not going to be able to finish your dinner. The reason behind that is because your insulin response is 100% different, and your brain is not being told, I need more sugar to match the insulin demand that has been put in my body. It's shocking how much food people can eat because their body's trying to save them, but it's creating disease. So when you're eating, and if you live by calories, I have many patients that still want to choose calories as their intake limit versus quality food. So I really want you to understand that not every calorie is created equally, and it needs to have vitamins, it needs to have minerals, it needs to have color, it needs to have texture, and you have to be able to chew it. If you can suck on it, mash it, or melt it in your mouth, it's probably not a food you need to be eating. So I'll go to the next slide here. Anybody have questions before I move on, or statements, anything? All right, this is interesting to anybody.
One statement: when we harvest apples, we and neighbors' apples, whatever, they always inevitably have a little worm in them or something. Anyway, we consider that a blessing, because that means it doesn't have any chemicals that kill us as well as a worm.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
we just cut the little guy out. Go on.
Right.
But you're right. Those apples aren't big and fresh. I mean, not big. They're not all uniform. They're they're just apples that we got off the tree, and they do take more processing to cut them, but sure worth it. We know what they are made of.
Right, and they have more flavor, don't they?
Yeah, we think so. We make applesauce out of it and can that. Works really good.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent kind of reminder that fast food, when I was younger and had small children, I wasn't on the journey I am now. I was on the survival journey. And there were many times that those kids got a fast food meal. I, again, raised the way I was with my health conscious grandmother. That was healthy food, right? It was food. If we didn't give too much, it was fine. So when you clean out a car, when you have toddlers, and if you allow them to eat in a car, the only thing that's going to talk to you is that milk. So we never got milk in the car. They got Sprite or they got juice or no drink. Again, not a healthy choice. So again, cheeks are red here, but I didn't know what I know now. When you clean out the car and you can find fully formed French fries that are still intact with no mold, probably don't need to be in your body. When you can find a hamburger or a chicken nugget that is not degraded at all, that is still essentially the same thing, you could probably turn it into a toy for your child because it's only solidified. It hasn't done anything else. What is in the food? When a bug won't land on it or eat it, what is in the food? I remember being younger and bread would mold after a week. I haven't seen moldy bread in ages. We have bread in our fridge because one of my sons, he will only eat sandwiches. I'll tell you, that bread will be there for months and months and months and months sometimes if he's traveling, because I don't throw stuff away all the time, but there's not a single drop of mold in it. And they'll argue because it's in the fridge. I'm like, the fridge won't keep it that long. So again, looking at the quality of your food, and if mold will eat it, that's an excellent message that it's natural. Because a fungus comes in to start to turn things over. That's where we get our compost from. We get those little things that the mycelium that come in from the ground or from whatever you're putting in it, and that starts to break it down.
Right.
You know, so those are some really excellent statements. You want the whole healthy food. So I touched on this before. Predominantly what you're going to want is Mediterranean food. So on this page, you see a little cheese, you see some grains, but I'll tell you, if you have a healthy system and your body is not ravaged by artificial food products and GMOs, your stomach lining will be able to tolerate some grains, especially if they're ancient grains and they're the grains that haven't been hybridized. So in Europe, you can eat bread, you can eat some pasta, but I'll tell you what, that's not the only thing they eat. They don't serve you a gallon of pasta with a small cup of sauce on it. The pasta is the garnish. It's not the main dish. The main dish is going to be the garlic, the onions, the tomatoes, the peppers, the lettuces, the spinach, you name it. A little bit of lean protein, most often poultry or fish. And then your dessert's going to be something simple. Obviously, you can go to Europe and you're going to get some not simple desserts. I'm fully aware of that. But if we're looking at traditional diets, those sweets and those cakes and those more complicated things are saved for special occasions, not readily available in the pantry for everyday taking it.
Okay.
So the Blue Zones research shows most of their diet was plant focused. Meat was only eaten a couple of times a week or saved for special occasions. Most of what they ate were those in season fruits and vegetables. So the things that were readily available to walk out into their personal garden, pull off the vine and eat. And so there is something to be said about circadian eating and rhythmic eating and seasonal eating. Looking at the foods that are in season are going to be the ones that are actually made for you to eat at that time. They're actually going to be nutritionally more potent in your body versus something that we have forced to grow out of season. So winter strawberries, again, they're really lovely. And if you're going to grow them and freeze them and keep them yourself and then pull them out during the winter, that's fine. But really lean heavy on what is in season, and you might find that you feel better. So these are some of my mentors on the big stage. Dr. Mark Hyman, he is somebody who was instrumental in creating the Institute for Functional Medicine. He's got a podcast called The Doctor's Pharmacy with an F. He is a huge proponent of plant-based eating and fish-based eating. So he has the Pegan diet, P-E-G-A-N. So pescatarian, vegan, paleo type diet. He does a great job of being a thought leader and helping people come up with new ways to eat or like new ways to understand what we should be eating. And he's trying to make it really clear. He basically reiterates it under different titles to try to get the people who are on top of whatever fad it is to listen. And it tends to be what I had mentioned on the previous slides. Heavy in plants, specifically vegetables, very colorful fruits and vegetables, and a little bit of lean protein. If you're going to eat beef, he wants it to be organic, grass-fed. He prefers not. He'd much rather have you eating sardines and anchovies, those small fish, because they're low in mercury and toxins that are in the ocean waters these days. The bigger the fish, the more toxins you get, because like I said, you are what you eat. And the more of those little fish that get eaten by moderate-sized fishes, and those moderate-sized fishes who get eaten by the giant tunas and dolphins and all of those other things, if you eat those bigger fish that have eaten the smaller fish and smaller fish, you're eating all of the toxins that they've had. So it's kind of that Russian nesting doll effect of toxins. So again, if you can choose the smaller fishes, that's best. Wild caught, preferably, and sustainably caught, so they're not over harvesting the area that they're coming from. Dr. Deanna Minnick, she is, I'll tell you, she was at the last educational session that I went to for my functional medicine certification, and I wish she had been the first and been on all of them. She is a holistic nutritionist. She had intentions to go to medical school, but opted to learn nutrition because she just didn't like the way medicine taught drugs first. So she's one, if you like to follow somebody on diet, she has a profound wealth of knowledge because she teaches from the chakra systems. She teaches from the rainbow. She teaches how each food impacts each part of our body system, our physical body, our emotional body, our spiritual body. And she can help guide and align what you're eating for the needs that you have based on all of those things. So the rainbow diet is her creation. She also does a lot of quantum energetic healing. So she takes the frequency of the color of the food, because each thing has its own frequency, and combines it with the different frequencies of potentially essential oils and other things that we have in our life to help you heal. She has a whole book on quantum supplementation and what you need when and what food can serve that need for you. So it's just, she's remarkable. And then Dr. Dean Ornish isn't somebody I have necessarily studied, but he's the guru that my gurus talk about. So his big claim to fame is a vegan diet, and he has shown that you can reverse cardiovascular disease through a vegan diet. And I actually do put some of my patients who have ungodly high cholesterol values on his food plan, because it will turn around extreme high cholesterol and it will reduce and eliminate inflammation. That is, it's actually the inflammation that's going to give you the heart attack, not the cholesterol. It's that blood vessel lining who is inflamed that's actually going to rupture. They blame it on the cholesterol. That cholesterol is happy to stay there. It's the inflammation that draws in the damage, and it's the thing that's going to be friable. So if you want some people to follow or learn from, or to understand where I learned from, here's my folks. I get this all the time, but it's so hard. That's not how I eat. You wouldn't come into my office if you ate this way all the time. I can almost guarantee, outside of infection or injury or antibiotic use potentially, that if you eat this way, you will not be sick. You will have a longer lifespan, and you will be able to overcome a lot of adversity. So I know when my health starts to decline and my weight goes up, if I really examine what it is I'm eating, I'm not eating my acai bowl with only non-grain. These are hemp hearts, the little seed looking things. There's some coconut, some walnuts, some goji berries, strawberries, blackberries, and a little teeny tiny bit of banana, because it has a very high glycemic index. You don't have to not eat banana, but don't eat it 3 or 4 of them. And so if we start eating that way, we are going to be far ahead. So it's hard. Yeah, I admit I don't do it. It's hard, but I get to choose my heart. It's hard to wake up in the morning when I don't sleep well. It's hard to walk around when my knees hurt. It's hard when I have to get a new pair of pants out of the closet because what should fit me is too small. Those things are hard. So you get to pick your heart. Which thing can you do? Which thing are you going to choose to do that's hard? It's going to be hard if I follow the path that my mom has followed, and she's got heart failure, and she's got hypertension, and she has diabetes, and she has cancer, and she's had knees replaced, and she weighs way too much for her frame, and she's lost all of her hair, and her teeth fall out, and she's tired all the time. That's hard. It's hard to watch. I don't want to live that hard. So I'm choosing to do better. And I would encourage you all to choose that as well. You know, I'm a little bit of an extremist. I don't say it to everybody, but I think most of you that are on might have heard me talk about certain things that the government and the food industry is allowed to do to us. Many folks that are in my practice don't love the idea of having a drug shoved at them for every ailment. But did you know that the FDA is allowed and has allowed food manufacturers to create foods that are addicting to us, that are not healthy for us. Some people don't know that. I know that. And what they have been allowed to do is use chemicals that are quote unquote safe. A solitary chemical is deemed safe, but they're allowed to combine them with 10, 15, 20 other chemicals to create a food that we don't know if those things are safe in combination. And really, whose definition of safe is it? We are allowed to have 14,000 chemicals put into our food and skincare products in the United States. In Europe, there's 1,400 things on their list. 1,000-fold chemicals are allowed, if I'm doing my math right. Maybe it's 100-fold, but still 100 times more chemicals allowed to come into our bodies. It's a crime. And the food industry knows that if they add sugar to it, it's more addictive. They know sugar is as addictive as nicotine and cocaine. They're allowed to add sugar to everything, whether it needs to be there or not. They are allowed to chemically alter and structurally alter foods so that it goes into our digestive system and out easier so that we can eat more of it. And that the chemicals that they apply to it make us want more because it's addictive. So the food colors on Doritos I pick on all the time because I don't know about you guys. If you go back and remember the Doritos as a child, if you ate them, they were a literal corn chip with some powdered coating on them. They tasted good. They were, they were okay. You can still get a similar chip if you get the Siete nacho chips. But the Doritos today, that corn has been processed to the point that it was turned into a meal, like a slurry or a sludge of an extract. And then it was pressed into a triangular shape with round edges. And you can tell that it's been run through a processor. It's not like the tortilla chip of old. So number one, they have been able to process those fibers to the point that that slurry, when you eat it and chew it up, you can chew it really quickly. It goes into your gut and out of your stomach really quickly. So you could eat a whole bag of Doritos and not get full. The colors that are on the Doritos, the flavorings that are on the Doritos, the preservatives that are on the Doritos, all are neurotoxic or endocrine toxic. They can create diabetes. They can create hormone disruption. The dyes in the foods can create ADHD, anxiety, anger, autistic behavior in children. If we can get that out of our children's systems, we cure most of what they put kids on drugs for. On top of that, the dyes that they put in those food are also in the drugs. So the red dye 40 is what turns your Adderall orange and red. So tell me that the FDA has our best interests at heart. Argue that if the FDA says it's fine to have this food, that it's okay to put it in our body. I'll fight you every time. So my suggestion is to make changes one at a time. It's hard to do. I understand. But if you start by only shopping the periphery of the grocery store and don't go down those tempting center aisles, you're going to get everything you need to live. Probably a little bit more because you're going to have to walk through the bakery. But fruits and vegetables, healthy meats, and then the spice aisle so that you can season and use Ayurvedic medicine to heal yourself through herbs and spices. We in America are trained to live on salt and sugar. Think about the pioneers. They traveled across this country with the only preservative available being salt or sugar or smoked meats. So that's what we have a genetic taste for because that's what our ancestors survived on when they crossed the prairies and the mountains to get to wherever we are. If you look at the healthiest areas, they use vibrant spices, they use whole herbs, they use fresh herbs, things like turmeric and cayenne and cumin, curry powders, mustard, peppercorns, the red, the green, the black, not just, the ground pepper that we know. And if you can use, the fresh herbs, basil, thyme, oregano, rosemary, those things have medicinal value. That's what I would love for you to start cooking with. So though, the permission to go down the center spice aisle, even though that's also the cake and the pudding aisle. Or better yet, go to the market in Kansas City and actually go to a spice market and get them scooped out of the vat and given to you. Take your own containers, because they serve them to you in plastic bags, or at least repackage them when you get them home out of the plastic into a glass jar. The next thing is to cut back on red meat. Switch it to 1 or 2 times a week at the most. Eat more fish and poultry, and keep your meat serving size to 4 to 6 ounces. There's no reason that anybody needs an 8 or 12 ounce or 18 ounce serving of meat. You need to eat fruits and vegetables for the majority of your meal, and have that meat protein be for a quarter of your plate. If you need to remove inflammation from your life, if you need to heal pain, if you need to heal autoimmunity, if you need to heal mood disorders, you need to remove grain and dairy from your diet, because they are full of artificial hormones and GMO products. They're often contaminated with mold. They're also often contaminated with, if you get a gluten-free grain, they're oftentimes going to have something in it that either has gluten, or your body's going to react to that alternative grain just as much. They spike your blood sugar. When your blood sugar goes up, I've said it before, your insulin rises, and then when it makes the blood sugar drop and it goes where it's supposed to in a properly functioning body, you get the craving to eat again, because that sugar is all pushed into your cells. When you have prediabetes or diabetes or so-called insulin resistance, that insulin spike goes up. The sugar doesn't leave your bloodstream, it stays in your bloodstream, and that's where we get hyperglycemia. The muscles and the organs that are supposed to take in that sugar can't, because the insulin doesn't work on the receptor side anymore. But your body's flooded with insulin, so your brain and your system gets the message still, I have too much insulin, I need to do something with it. So then you eat more, and then you become more insulin resistant until your pancreas wears out, and then you become insulin dependent diabetic. Then your blood sugar stays high no matter what you do, and you have to have insulin. So we can prevent this. Most diabetes is curable. The type 1 juvenile onset diabetes is different. It's a completely different monster than the majority of diabetes we see in this day and age. So you can cure it. So when you combine grains and dairy with sugar, it's even worse. It's like throwing an atomic bomb into your body. And I'm guilty of it. It's delicious. I love a good cake. I love a good cookie. I love ice cream. But I know it does not suit my body well. And I know that I'll pay for it with swollen joints and pain. So I get to choose my hard, right? Have you learned that? You get to choose your hard. So I have an option at the office that I don't recommend a whole bunch, because it's one of those things I'm trying to serve my in-person population the most. But we have that quantum metabolic reset. It's meant to be a tribe program. It's meant to be a group where we come together and weekly support each other and learn from each other and share our wins with each other, and then share our hardship with each other. So it is a wonderful program to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. It has a couple of phases where if you need to lose weight or release inflammation, for 6 weeks, you go on a pretty restrictive diet. What that is fruit, vegetables, and protein. Shocker, what have I been talking about? Fruit, vegetables, and protein. If you don't need to lose weight, but you need to lose inflammation, we increase the amount of protein, and we do give you some healthy fats to maintain your weight. Then it has a 4-week maintenance phase where we try to keep everything going and copacetic. So your body gets into this thing called homeostasis, so that it doesn't feel like it's being deprived, and that it doesn't feel like you're trying to change it too much, because our bodies are really lazy. It doesn't like change. Your brain wants routine. It wants to do the same thing over and over and over again, because if you were actually cognizant of the trillions of metabolic functions going on in your body at any second, you'd probably lose your mind. And your poor physiologic body is trying to keep you alive in spite of yourself. So we have to give it some rest time with that maintenance phase. So everybody's like, well, what kind of diet is it? What kind of food plan is it? And so it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek, it's a modified plant-forward autoimmune protocol, keto, paleo, whole food diet. But I've personally done it to myself when I've watched it work with other people. And again, we get to choose our heart, but within 3 days, blood sugars are even. Peaks and valleys go away. Pain starts to improve, inflammation starts to improve, sleep starts to improve, skin starts to improve. Weight comes off. It may not come off like gangbusters for some people, but for others, I've had a guy lose 60 pounds in 6 weeks. It can work. So it's a wonderful plan that I do have, and I would love to get it going again. So what I want you to do is think about your food. I want you to make choices based on how it's going to impact your function versus how it make you feel emotionally. Emotional attachment shouldn't be part of why we eat. And the other little trick that these blue zones have when they are eating their big meal, they're in community. So the focus is not actually on the food, it's on the community, it's on the tribe, it's on the emotional nourishment you get from being in relation with other people. And so when we think about Easter dinner and we think about Christmas dinner, and we think about Thanksgiving here in America, it's all about food, because that's what we do, is we worry about what everybody's going to eat and who's going to judge me. And you know, grandma's cake's the best, and Aunt Susie makes terrible jello, but we're all going to eat it so she doesn't feel bad. And then that crazy, you know, cousin Sandra, she's going to bring the vegan, gluten-free, egg-free, you know, pumpkin pie that it's going to be gross. Nobody eats it, but when in reality, it's probably the best thing on the table. So we need to rethink our meals. We need to rethink our community. We need to come together and have emotional nourishment during our meal versus just shoving food in our mouth. So if we could turn those holiday events into a more common occurrence so that it wasn't so hard for us to be with other people, or even better, we choose the people that nourish us versus the ones that are toxic and destroy us, your food will nourish your body better. Another common complaint is, I travel too much. I'm too busy. I'm an athlete. I'm a this. I'm a salesman. I just don't have time to pick healthy foods. Well, fruits and vegetables are highly portable, require little to no prep or refrigeration because they come in their own package. You can't tell me you can't find something to eat if you eat fruits and vegetables. It's the things that are delicate, the things that spoil. If they spoil, just by being left out for 2 or 3 hours, do we want it in our body? What's it going to do in our body? So nuts, healthy seeds, dried fruits are a quick and available energy if you're needing to get calories and energy in. I would also say, if you like a meat stick, they make them out of turkey. They make them out of bison. You can get organic beef sticks. Aldi actually has a really good choice, even though it's probably not organic beef. It doesn't have any crap in it. It's the Smithfield beef stick brand. It's literally beef and spices. That's all that's in it. Very low carb. They last. They do say refrigerate once they're opened, but you know, there are options out there. Here's my contact information for anybody who doesn't know me. I think you all know me. And I want to offer my thanks. It's my highest pleasure to serve you and offer the gift of knowledge. The more you know, the stronger you are. The stronger you are, the more dangerous you are to the things that would try to take advantage of an unhealthy, sickly, weak person. So here's to being dangerous. I challenge you to choose to be dangerous. All right. Thoughts, statements, questions?
Well, thank you for your thoughts.
Aldi's has blackberries on sale for $1.69 for their little, I don't know, their 6-ounce containers.
Lovely. Yeah. I just went there and got their blueberries and a little bit of strawberries. So yeah.
There is also, I think, I haven't looked into it, but I've seen an ad for it. Paleo Valley meat sticks, I think, that are organic.
Yes. Yes, they're wonderful. I like to get those. If anybody that doesn't have the ability to either be on camera or microphone wants to type anything in the chats, I'll take a look at that too. But I know that Evan and Carla were here for the last presentation. And I know, Kanita, I missed you at the first one. And then I know Jerry has jumped in from time to time on several things that I do. And then I see Kelly's been here visiting, and I know Lori and I chatted. So I really am grateful for you guys coming tonight. I really am. And this one's bigger than last time, isn't it, Carla and Evan? There's more people here tonight. So next time, let's get even more people in. I would love to have anybody who feels like it, you know, maybe share with their friends about what these are. They don't have to just be for our community. So please, you know, if you get the Zoom message or the Zoom link, share it with your friends if you want them to come on. I would love to have non-members participate. Again, this is number 3. I'm planning to go all year. So we'll have these going through December. And what I think would be really fun is to have a community meal in December and celebrate together. So I think that would be a lot of fun. So I won't keep you longer. It's been an hour, almost exactly. And I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm so thankful and grateful that you're in my life. And I'm so grateful that I can participate and be here to give you any education that you need. Please let me know if there's anything I can do to further our conversation, or if you come up with other questions. I'm all ears.
All right.
Have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.